Hi there, and welcome to Coffee with Craig. This is where we talk about all things spiritual. Quite often, I make predictions on this channel. Sometimes I go live. This time, I'm going to talk about how to live longer. Can we live forever? Well, this is my first broadcast in 2024, a significant year for me because in later on in January, well, we're in January, but in a few weeks' time, I have my birthday. So start saving up, everyone, and send me your presents. But I'm passing 70. I'm going to be reaching 70 years old, and it got me thinking, oh, how much time have we got left in life? And I thought I'd talk a little bit about how we can live longer, and some of the thoughts about longevity generally from science, and also the spiritual standpoint of it, and just put a few ideas to you about living forever. I mean, there's been lots of stories of people that lived a long, long time. We say that they say that in earlier eras, in the earlier yugas, as the Indians call it, the earlier yugas in the times of the Satya Yuga and so forth, people used to live extraordinary long times. Ordinary individuals would live extraordinary long times, and we see also in the histories of the world and the stories of religion about many many people who lived for vast amounts of years. I mean, we've got Methuselah, haven't we, from the Bible? 969 years lived. Moses was 120. The first Buddha, I can't remember his name, some odd sort of name. I can't remember, sorry, but he lived for 100,000 years. And so also the stories in the Ramayana of Rama, who lived 11,000 years. And Krishna even lived for 125 years. So there's all these ancient stories, many of them being picked up nowadays by the movement of Falun Gong. Is that how to pronounce it? Falun Gong? Yeah, Falun Gong, the Chinese movement. Lots of people are getting interested in because they're showing a lot of the old techniques to extend life. So all these things are quite interesting as you get older, and I'm quite interested in the whole way that people think about, why we want to live a long time. Why do we want to live a long time? And also, could we actually physically do it? I mean, there's been some interesting scientific research happening at the moment. The actual science seems to think we can live for about 150 years. They reckon the human body, with right care and attention, with the right medical intervention and so forth, should be able to live for about 150 years. But of course, the boundaries of science are being pushed over and over again, and we're getting all sorts of new research coming in. I mean, the big question science has to ask itself about aging is, why does it seem that everything seems to go all at once? I mean, when a person sort of gets ill and dies, it seems like the whole system collapses. It doesn't seem to be just usually one small thing. It's like something that seems to control the aging process for the whole body. What is that? I mean, two of the main culprits could be the nerves, because that's in all of the body, or in the bloodstream, which is also within all of the body. So some of the research done suggests that let's see what would happen, for example, if we start playing around with the blood. One of the experiments they did that I think is very interesting is they sewed two mice together, so they shared the same circulation system. Pretty horrible experiment to do, but they put an old mouse with a younger mouse, sewed the two together, and the older mouse lived more than 6, or up to, I think it was 6 weeks longer than an average life of one of those mice. So, in other words, he was sapping some form of life force from the younger mouse. So this obviously makes you start thinking what's going on. I know there's a lot of conspiracy theories out there, for example, about people that steal children in order to take their life force, in particular, the plasma from young children. I mean, the question has been, and science is not sure about this yet, really, but could plasma from young children be used to extend life, to extend physical human life? There was even a company called Ambrosia, which ambrosia, as you know, is a Greek word for the ambrosia of life, the nectar that you would drink to live forever. But they're talking about using young blood plasma and transferring it into humans. And of course, this obviously brings the questions up, where they're getting this from. Is the baby snatching going on and things like this? And again, this was all over the internet. And there's lots of restrictions, of course, within science about whether you can do these sort of things, because these are pretty dodgy experiments, aren't they? Really, and they're inventing all sorts of new, tried and untested um, uh, drugs. And of course, how you don't know if a drug's gonna. How can you prove a drug's going to make someone live a long time? You have to use that whole person's life in order to do the experiment. So you can't quickly do the experiment like you can with fruit flies and things. Nothing to restrict them doing it on dogs, though. So they've been using it in veterinary surgeries as well to work on dogs, to actually see if they can extend the life of dogs using blood and various things like that. And they seem to be getting some interesting results. So I think in the future we're going to see a lot more of this happening, and I do predict here that we're going to see a huge interest and an upturn in interest in everything to do with longevity, and in particular as artificial intelligence starts to get embedded into medical science and medical research. I do feel that artificial intelligence is going to be one way we get research. And could it be also that our consciousness could even be extended by artificial intelligence? We're already seeing talk about Elon Musk and people talking about being able to put a chip inside our brain. Well, could we not then transfer that chip into another brain? Could we transfer consciousness? I doubt it. Because of the nature of the human soul, that would be a whole new video, I think. But I do suspect that we might discover in the future some new kind of subatomic level to the human condition. I mean, you saw those videos I did with Deepak Chopra, who was fabulous. I loved his ideas about quantum theory and things, that consciousness could be rooted in the quantum world. That's basically his idea. But my question is, okay, we have physical DNA, but could we not also have some form of, like, could you call it a subatomic or quantum DNA? Could not a vibration, a resonance be passed from us in the physical form into the quantum field? And that quantum field, if it could extend and live beyond death, is that not what the spirit is, and can shift from place to place and person to person? And maybe even have its own form of DNA, what Carl Jung perhaps was thinking about when he was talking about the collective unconscious and things like this. I mean, these are just ideas. I can't prove any of this, but these are thoughts that come to me when I'm doing my meditations on these things, and I'd be very interested what you guys think. Do you think that we could extend our life? Do you think there is some scientific thing, or are there other things that I've spoken about here that you'd like to put some links in about that? You're welcome to do that in the comments, as long as they're reasonable links. So from our own point of view, though, we obviously want to extend our life to that 150 years, if possible, that we were talking about. Most people would anyway. And there's very obviously lots of practical steps we can take to improve our life. They say that 2/3 of why we age is all down to lifestyle. So we need to do, says me with a cough, but that cough is hiatus hernia, by the way, that causes that when I talk a long time. No problem. I'm actually very, very healthy, actually, just digressing, because I do yoga every day. Don't have any known health conditions, touch wood. Yeah, but lifestyle, things like yoga. I think are the way key for all of us to have a more happy life, really, as well as a more healthy life. We can't Yoga was developed so that we could have a healthy body so that which can support our spiritual work. It wasn't all about, you know, look how healthy I am, I'm better than you, and all the competitiveness that goes on in yoga classes nowadays. It was all about first step, get the body healthy, then we can start the meditation and we can start the quest towards samadhi. But anyway, coming back to this, 2/3 of why we age is all due to lifestyle itself. And one of the things we need to incorporate into lifestyle changes really is to keep a certain amount of strength in our body. I don't think weightlifting is a particularly healthy form of activity, but that is something one could incorporate. Yoga, I think, encompasses everything. High end intensity activity is another thing because we need a certain amount of getting the breath to move and getting the heart to move. These are all things that are pretty obvious, really. Lots of videos out there about that. From my point of view, I always think walking is a great thing to do. You know, it keeps your mind active, it keeps you energetic, but it also gets you out in sunlight because they say within so many of the ancient teachings, particularly in the yogic teachings again, that sunlight has more to it than just creating vitamin D in the body. It also has a regenerative effect. Sunlight can be a extremely powerful form of regenerative force, particularly as I'm talking to you now in the dark months at the beginning of I lost it of January. These are the times when we need to sort of get some sunlight. You know, when I've spoken to friends in Iceland and things, some of them get very depressed when there's no light. So it has a very marked effect on the human condition, and I think at a very deep level. And then, of course, we've got to look after our health. That's obviously a way we can live longer. Get lots of antioxidants is quite important to us. I think things like black tea and coffee can give you antioxidants. Green tea's a great one, and rooibos even better than green, they say. The one that I've spoken about before is the tulsi tea, the holy basil from India. This is not only restorative, but it's fantastic for reducing anxiety. How many years do we shed when we worry? Worry, hurry, and curry, Sai Baba said, are the three causes of disease. You know, wrong food as well, being the curry. But we need to reduce anxiety, so that can be a very useful one, Tulsi tea. And it also lowers blood sugar. And another tip is chagar tea, if you ever come across that. Me and my friends went out to the forest to get some chagar. You have to cut it off these silver birch trees, and very hard to find. And we were drinking it by the gallon when we got a whole sack of it. But it's extremely good, full of all sorts of nutrients. So well worth looking at and considered as being one of the best teas to fight against cancer. Of course, these are opinions; these are not medical facts. But you know, check it out on the internet, find out what you can about it. But I found that was extremely good and very good for boosting immunity and overall health. So that's another one. Also, look at your purple foods as well. They say, don't they? Purple foods, like are said to fight cancer because they contain the right sort of stuff to do that. Things like berries and even red wine. They say is another way to improve your living. And I certainly think that with our lovely times we spend in Abruzzo in Italy, and that can I think it's definitely a remedy there. Cinnamon is another one to go for. As well, cinnamon is also good for these sort of things. It reduces high blood pressure too, doesn't it? Up to 30%, they reckon it can reduce high blood pressure, some studies said. And it helps the liver and it balances the body's insulin as well. I'm not a doctor, so, this is my opinions. These are the things that I use in my own life to try to overcome some of the health issues that haven't occurred, but keep them out of the way. The worst one for me is sugar. Actually, I find that's the hardest one to beat. And everything we eat nowadays, all the processed food out there, isn't it? It's stuffed full of sugar. Even things they put it in a green label and say low fat. Yeah, low fat because they've added more sugar to give it taste. So it's even worse for you than fat. In fact, fat isn't such a bad thing. Fat stay in your system longer and give you the energy that sugar would provide on a more sustained way than fat. But also the way to some of the ways, another thing I introduced into my life, another tip that I would suggest is intermittent fasting. I try, I don't do it all the time because I think if you get too rigid with these things, it gets out of hand. But I intermittent fast I try not to eat after 6 o'clock in the evening. And then I try not to have breakfast until at least 10 o'clock in the morning after I've done my yoga in the mornings. And that gives you quite a long period where the body has a chance to rest and restore itself. And if you have a look out there, if you're new to these ideas, have a look out there on the intermittent fasting ideas, because um, it's not crackpot. It's a great thing. Actually, there's a lot of research to suggest that it actually helps the body rebuild itself. Even the brain rebuilds itself. They used to think that the brain couldn't restore its neurons, but they say that even the brain will restore itself through intermittent fasting. And so that's it with diet, right? And things like that. There's so much more you can look at that. Obviously the food we eat, less processed foods, basically. Look for the word whole. If it's whole meal or it's whole bread and so those are the words that generally, although they trick us, don't they, are the things to look for. I'm not necessarily think that vegetarianism is the answer, or veganism, or all those things. I think people take them far too far. But that each personal choice. But each of us has, I think, as well, a different type of body type, which Ayurvedic medicine tells us all about, that we all have different types of body types or personality types or spirit types, as it were. It can be changed. So we have to sort of work. There's no one size fits all with these ideas, is there? And finally, I think also sleep, because sleep reduces hypertension. And that's one of the biggest culprits to aging, hypertension. If people I know who've been warriors all their life, they do tend to show it. They do seem to be less energetic as they get older. Friends that I've watched, who might have been quite sporty when we were young, actually deteriorated when they get older and get very worried. And also sometimes alcohol, I think, is one of the biggest destroyers of human health. And I think it has a certain under level that it damages to the spirit. That's why anything, like I said about red wine earlier, but a small amount now and again is a good idea. I don't want to be prudish about it, but at the same time, I think you've got to be cautious with that. And often that is used as a substitute for the tension that you're trying to get rid of, which you could get rid of with good sleep. Now, I've put videos up about this before, but one of the great practices that I think restores health for a long time is a technique called yoga nidra, which is called yogic sleep, really, which you can use to go to sleep, because it's a system you can use to relax the body on a very, very deep level. But it can also be used independently to get into a super relaxed state in which we can sort of then seed thoughts and seed feelings, and seed ideas as we drop off to sleep. This is a form of sort of inner healing. In yogic teachings, it's called sankalpa, right? So it's like, this is where all this idea about not mindfulness, what we call it, abundance, all this business about I'm going to generate abundance in my life by visualization. This comes originally from the ideas of sankalpa from the teachings. Basically what it says, sankalpa is about being in harmony with time, it means, literally. So it's visualizing what you want to happen in your life. If you go to sleep, you're going to do a form of what we call subconscious sankalpa. So you're seeding into the subconscious mind ideas that can manifest in life. So thoughts are things, we say, don't we? Thoughts are things. So we manifest through our thoughts. When we do this sankalpa, we can manifest things in our life. So everybody goes for abundance. I want to have money. I want to have wealth. I want to have fame. Wrong. Look for health, look for happiness, look for seeing yourself as a bit of well-being. Get those. That's what sankalpa was meant for. Bring those things into your life, and the rest will look after itself. As they say, seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all things shall be added unto it. This is a simple idea. Look for the spiritual. Find the spiritual image as you go to sleep, and when you do yoga nidra, perhaps, and you lay the seeds for true happiness in your life that way. Which brings me to the next thoughts about how we can extend our life. So all those things will give us longer lives, happier lives too. Who wants a long, miserable life? Not me. I'd rather have a short, happy life, but a long, happy life, even better still, I'm sure. Now, our bodies respond, don't they, when we think about things, you know? Um, I know if there's something important that's like our bodies respond to our happiness, and a body will live longer if it feels it's still needed. For example, I mean, if it's just evolutionary, thinking about evolution, if the body thinks it's still needed for the group survival, then not just reproduction, but for the group survival, then it'll keep going longer. So that's why I think it's important for people as they get older to become more active. I mean, my attitude is I just feel I'm just getting started in life. You know, I'm still as enthusiastic now about life and what's to come as I was when I was 18 years old. And why shouldn't we be all the time? People getting to these boring old states of mind. I see people shuffling along at the age of 50, you know, and it's about getting us also. I think what's happened I think, in this world, particularly, is people have lost their sense of purpose and people have lost their sense of meaning. And if you lose your sense of purpose and you lose your sense of meaning, the body's saying, oh, well, perhaps I'm not any good anymore. Maybe it's time to go. Maybe it's finished. Maybe the job's done. So it's not. We've got to get reestablish that sense of purpose and meaning. And that doesn't mean we have to do something heroic. You know, having purpose and meaning doesn't necessarily mean we all have to become the next Buddha or something. Having purpose and meanings means it needs to be done on a simple level. A simple level, simple things will suffice, because our meaning is not necessarily all of us are going to be here and be great leaders of mankind, are we? Our purpose in life is for many things, you know. And I think you have to look into your life and ask yourself, what is it that gives me that sense of that feeling of meaning? What is it that gives me that sense of fulfillment in life? You know, what is it? You know, all of us can do that. And it might be your children, might be your job, it might be might be art or whatever. What is it? What is it gives you that really sense of meaning and purpose in life? And then focus on that. And I always think to myself as well, it's important in order to, again, it brings an energy and life to your life as well, is to brighten your brightest virtue, right? So what I mean by that is if you've got good qualities in yourself, right, you've got a good sense of humor, right? Bring it out. Put your attention, your focus on that and let that grow in life. If you're good at something, whatever it might be, practical things, inner things, creative things, focus on those good things and make them grow. And similarly with your memories too. You know, so many people moan all the time about, oh, I've had such a life. It's been so terrible. We live in a moaning culture at the moment. We live in a society where people are making themselves depressed, ill psychologically and physically because all they focus their attention on is everything bad that's happened to them. You know, this self-indulgent self-pity. Do that, you make yourself ill. You can do it. You know, you can make yourself, you know, it's killing me. It's killing me. Well, it will. So you need to focus also on the brightest happy thoughts in your life. Everybody's got some happy thoughts somewhere, you know, some happy event that happened in your life. Build those up. Again, use it subconsciously. Use it when you go to sleep. This is why counting your blessings is a great idea. Think of all the happy things that have been in your life. And okay, there's been bad stuff. Of course there has. But we don't want to put our attention too much on that because that's weakening us. It's shortening our life. We want to learn from these things. Don't want to repress it. But at the same time, let's focus on brightening our brightest virtue, brightening our brightest memories, you know, and that our life will become happier. Our life will become brighter too. And when we do these things, we have to bring it into life too. It's not just an inner process. And this is another thing that makes people live longer, they say. But if people can connect with other people, Facebook is not connecting with other people. Often you're connecting nowadays with bots and artificial intelligence and scammers from Nigeria. Connect with people in real life. And this is something we miss, don't we? Do we not miss connecting with real life people? You know, it's all done online nowadays. Christmas was all nobody sent any Christmas cards because it's or even that, because of the cost of it, I suppose. But, we need to focus and actually connect with people, maybe phone people, text even, as a start, and try to meet people in real life and get out and be with people because that also creates happiness, but it also, I think, helps it tells the body you're needed. Because the body, if it's sat down all day long, is starting to think, maybe I'm an old person now. The body don't know. It's only responding to what we're telling it. And if we're giving it couch potato information all the time, it'll give up. That's why I sit down a lot. We all sit down a lot. I'm sat down now. But we need to also very much, I say, do yoga, get some activity of some sort. You can do yoga at any age. You don't have to be stretchy or bendy. Everybody can do yoga of some sort. So that would be good. And it's also important, again, coming back to this idea of getting purpose and meaning, because this is important too. We have to sort of intuitively get in touch with what we feel is truly important to us. We have to find it within ourselves. Is there something that you would really love to have done in life and you've not done it? What really matters to you, and not things and think I'm going to do those things. I'm going to have a go, not as an escape, not as an escape from reality, but in the real world. So people think, oh, well, gaming's important to me. No, don't do that. That's an escape from reality. Oh, flicking down Facebook's a bit more important to me. No, get off all that. Bring it into the real world. I think this is also important because when we start living in this artificial world, we're living in a world that is destroying us on a very subtle level. What is it you want to do in life? What really matters to you? What is it that really enthralls you? And maybe even look back again. Look back to when you were children. What was it you wanted to do in life? Okay, I want to be a train driver. Okay, you might not be a train driver, but is it something active like that that you want to do? Something more exhilarating? I don't see why we can't bring all of us those things into our life. People always say they can do things, and they always say, I can do that, I can do that, and they don't do it. Laziness kills. Laziness is the biggest killer, probably, of all of the lot. Complacency. These are dreadful things, and I've seen people basically rot through laziness. You see your friends from years ago, and you think sometimes, they've done well, but they've done badly, and that's been through laziness often. So, what would you like to do with your life? Now, what would you like to do with your life above everything else in the world? I mean, if there was only a few minutes left, what if you were to die in a few years' time? Death's a great one, isn't it? What would you do? What would you do if you knew you were going to die in a couple of years' time? You'd make the best of every moment, wouldn't you, of your life? And I think it's important to think about our death, not in a lost the camera for a minute. I think it's important to think about our death, not in a miserable sort of way, but to think about it as some way of increasing your life's energy, some way of increasing your desire to be here and be active and not say, oh, I've got forever here. Life goes like that. It's just a twinkling of an eye. It's gone in no time at all, So we have to have this sort of view of life, I think, and to this inner spiritual sort of drive, this inspiration, I think makes us live longer. I may be proven wrong, but I think I will live quite a long time because I feel that there's an energy of wanting the joy of life, the joie de vivre. That energy, I think, it infuses the body with the prana, as they call it, the life force, the life drug. We draw it all the time. These very thoughts and the thoughts you'll have now when us talking about this do energize you. They are a form of self-healing. Now, there's other things too. I'm going on a long time, but it's an interesting topic, I think. Hopefully you're still with me. But, we do we really have to live that long either? That's another question because our life is not necessarily needs to be here for long periods of time. But I think we can do a lot in this life to clear some of the stuff as well, because I believe we're here in this life to awaken ultimately, all in our own way and all in our own time. And also partly to clear our karma is part of the life purpose as well, and part of the way we can extend our life. Now, as you know, I've worked a lot with the nadis. I've talked about those, and the nadis gave me a date of death and it gave me one date of death. And then I started to do the karmic work and the pujas and the charitable work that Nadi said I should do. Next time I approached the Nadi, hey, my life's extended by 10 years. And hey, now it even says you can choose the time you want to die. And I think actually what happens is that we start to generate an energy, positive energy, by doing charitable things, charitable acts, not just giving money to charity, go and doing something charitable. That might be on a very simple levels, not necessarily always giving money to people, but charitable in the way you act, being a giving person, being a kind person, being a cheerful person. All these things give to the world. Do those things, and that's a form of puja. Extends your life. I could go on for ages about that. I better simplify it a bit. We'll be here all day. We'll be here to 2025. But I think it's also important to settle things in your heart too, because worry and hatred, jealousy, all those things create awful energies that damage the body, don't they? And we've got to let go of those things that bind us. We've got to let go of those things that bind us. We've got to give our heart a reason to beat every day, So be inspired, and love life, because you will only come this way once. I mean, we may reincarnate, but in this form, as who we are, with our family as it is, this is such a golden opportunity to find joy, isn't it? And so I started off talking about this, or about some of the scientific things, about how people want to extend life, and could we extend it to 150 years? Could we extend it forever, perhaps? Science could find a way, but using artificial intelligence, so forth, to extend it forever. But why do people want to live that long? The people that want to do this are the rich people. A, they can afford it, but also, from what I've seen from many, many rich people, they have a higher fear of death than most. People that achieve high things are finding their security in the things around them. And if we take away the things around us, i.e. death, my God, where am I? I've had it, So we've also, finally, I've got to say, I feel we must try to live fearlessly if you want to live for a long time, but at the same time, embrace death, consider what happens after your death, will you, what will happen? We won't, when we die, we don't suddenly all become angels. Otherwise, we should all go and jump off the bridge now and we can all become angels. No, we'll be the same person. But this life is an opportunity, and it's a doorway to a greater life, a longer life, isn't it? And actually, even having a belief in death, a life after death, makes people live a lot longer. They say it's a 6.48 years longer a person on average lives, who has a religious belief of some sort, to a non-believer. So even having the the belief, let alone the knowledge, that there's life after death, gives you a longer life as well. Adds an extra 6 or 7 years. It's still got time, isn't it? And it's not just a long life we want, is it? We need a life of happiness too. I think happiness comes often too from acceptance. You see, people that fear for their life and wants to live for a long time, that's fear that's driving. But if we live a life of acceptance, and we can live at ease with our life, and at ease with the idea of death as well, if we live at ease with those type of things, I think we then do travel the paths of life much more easily. I think with fearlessness, we obviously travel with a lot more valiantly on the paths of life, but also a lot happier. Because when death comes, it comes sooner or late. But I think it's always good to keep in your mind the thought that the best is yet to come. We've only just begun. We are we not, eternal beings. We do live forever, like it or not, because we go into the next worlds. We go into the spirit world, which I prove through my mediumship. We go possibly into reincarnations after that period in the spirit world. And these are not just beliefs. These are things you can find out as an absolute truth in life. So there you go. That's my thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed all that. I'm also just like to sort of remind you that if you do like these sort of chats, you can chat to me one-to-one directly, not through a reading, but through my workshops. I've got some great online workshops happening at the moment for teaching you all sorts of ideas and methods and techniques as well. So I'll include in my workshops, which you can have a look on the website. I'll put the URL up now. But have a look on my website and you can book a workshop with me. Up to 15 people come to these workshops. So they're not massive. It gives you a chance to interact. I'm going to be doing things like meditation. I help you to deeply get into yourself and find your spirit. I've been doing this Kalpa, which is about visualization and how to use that on a conscious level and a subconscious level to improve our lives. I'll be giving you some inner guidance and teaching you how to connect with your spirit guides and how to connect with your own, I suppose we could call it your over self or the Akashic, give you some ways of getting into these things. And I will also do a little bit of, I suppose I'd call it like trance. I'll be doing some um, messages from the spirit world for those that are joining me um, on these workshops. And so I'll be giving you some messages from the spirit world as I tune. These will be sometimes personal messages, or you can even ask me about revelations for the future, because when I'm in that fluid state of mind, it's quite an interesting. And then, of course, questions and answers and discussion. So that's basically the way they go. They're for spiritually minded people. It can help people that want to develop their own psychic side as well. But it's not primarily aimed at that. It's aimed at just helping you to attune yourself with the spirit, I suppose, to become connected with these spiritual courses that I'm offering. So have a look at the website. And there's 2 or 3 up there at the moment. I'll also be doing some workshops much later on. Well, not much later, but later on. They're not up there yet, on the Nadi as well. So go and have a look and see if there's anything you like there. Well, I've talked myself to death or taught myself to life. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon. All right. Don't forget to subscribe. See you soon. Bye for now.